Sabri, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Sabri, just for my audience that may not have heard of you, I know your King Kong company, like your agency is amazing, but just explain a little bit what King Kong does and where you've come from. I know you're an author, you're a speaker, you do a lot of cool things. You're a male model. Tell us a
Indeed.
little bit about what you guys do exactly.
Yeah, sure. So I run a digital marketing agency called King Kong, and we basically help our clients get more clients by increasing their traffic, leads, and sales. And our business is really just centered around solving that number one problem that all businesses face, which is like, how do I get more customers? So that's what we're obsessively trying to solve as a business, whether it's through our agency's offerings or through books or through courses or whatever it might be. Our whole thing is like just solving that problem for businesses. And, I've been at this entrepreneurial game since I was 21. Got my start in sales when I was 16, which was like a cold hard slap to the face. But I've ran businesses. I've ran a few into the ground. I've had some failures. I've had some wins. I've sold some businesses. And really, I've just been in all of those businesses and all of those ventures. I've always been the one tasked with how do we bring new customers in, right? How do we solve that problem? And I think it's just that obsessive focus and me constantly trying to answer that question has led me to be in the position where I am today, where, I get paid to help businesses solve that problem.
Best job in the world. Sounds awesome.
Look, it's challenging. It definitely comes with its challenges, but it's very rewarding. Like, it's really rewarding to take a business that is struggling to make payroll, or even one that's just doing okay, right, just to keep afloat, and coming into that business and helping them like double their business, and just seeing like the profound impacts that it has on that business owner's life, and how they can spend time with their family or their loved ones, and all the different spill-off effects. So that's the reason that I do it. That's the thing that really lights me on fire, is using business as a vehicle to help people change their lives.
Yeah, and one of the vehicles that obviously is the main focus for a lot of people now is digital, so digital marketing. Now, when people say the word digital marketing, the phrase, it's surprising how many definitions people have. There's some misconceptions about digital marketing. Talk us a little bit about that. Like, what are the main misconceptions when people come to agencies that, I want digital marketing?
Yeah, well, look, I really look at it is that there is only one form of marketing today, and that is digital marketing. There is no other type of other marketing, right? Because if you're looking at offline marketing or all these other terms above the line, all these kind of things that people want to throw out there, it's like if you're advertising on television in today's day and age, people cannot buy off a television ad. Right? So you are basically just funneling those people from television online. You're just pushing the offline people into an online. So ultimately, everybody's going to end up on your website or on your landing page. That's ultimately the game, right? At the end of the day, like marketing, the first premise is really to get attention and to get eyeballs on whatever it is that you've got. And then through salesmanship and storytelling and all the different stuff that comes with it, being able to convert that attention and leverage it and flip it into actual money and into customers. So, digital marketing as a term, in my mind, we still have to use it because that's the way that people identify it. So you need to speak to people in the language that they're used to, but it's an irrelevant term. It's all just comes down to getting attention. And right now, all of the attention is online, right? 2017 was the first year ever in history that digital outsurpassed television as the number one advertising platform in the world. Right now, social media and Netflix are surpassing traditional television as the number one place that they're spending their time. So it's just really about finding where those audiences are. And when someone comes into our business, it's a prospect and they're looking to grow their business, there's a very basic test that I run through with them. And that's basically, are people searching for what it is that you offer? i.e., are they on Google looking for a solution to a pressing problem? If so, the best place to reach those people is going to be on Google. If they're not, then we're fortunate to live in a day and age where we have Facebook and Instagram, and we can push a message in front of the people that would be the best candidate for the product or service that we're selling. If someone's searching for it, more often than not, Google's going to be the first play. If they're not, then Facebook and Instagram are going to be a great channel. So that's really the way that I look at it. I let that dictate to where we're going to go out and be able to capture that attention and then leverage that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Talking about social media, there's a lot of people out there that surprisingly, like I have an agency or a content agency, a production agency where we make organic content for various places and companies. And a lot of small business owners struggle to use social media to be able to advertise, or they don't know what to use it for. What's your take on that? How can small businesses use their social media to market or to build their brand?
Yeah, and I think that that's an interesting topic, right? Because even though this is the world that I live in, I'm also a realist, and I understand that, like, if you're the local plumber, like, yeah, you can get crazy and come up with some crazy content marketing strategy, but more often than not, that's not the area that you want to be focusing on that's going to really move the money needle for your business, right? In pumping out a whole bunch of content on social media about, drainage and plumbing and all of that kind of stuff. So it does fit the model, right, for what you do, and it can be a personality-driven business where people want to buy in to a personality behind that, then I think that that's a great place to invest your money. But I really, the way that I look at it is, like, for every area in my life, I look at, like, the whole 80-20 analysis, and I look at, like, then I do the 80-20 on the 80-20 and find, like, the 4% of activities that I can do for any different topic that's going to basically give me 64% of the results. Like, what are the activities that are going to really move the money needle? And if they are social media, if that fits into your ecosystem, then go all in and double down on that thing. The way that I look at social media realistically is that now more than ever, people don't want to buy off companies so much as they do people, right? And there needs to be, like, story selling, telling people about your story behind that brand is incredibly important, more important than ever before.
Let's talk about that. Like, storytelling's vital. And do you think, generally speaking, it's like with the businesses you work with, is it hard for people to tell their story? Do they overcomplicate it? What challenges do you see with business owners creating a narrative?
Most people don't want to, right? They want to hide behind the scenes. You get two kind of people. You get some people that are, like, really self-obsessed and they want to be everywhere, all over their website and their landing pages, and want to be front and center. And then that's a small percentage. And then you have a whole bunch of people that just don't want to be out there, right? And they don't want to be in the limelight. Or it's like, the whole conversation about, like, I posted a picture recently on Instagram, and, like, some people are like, oh, why are you posting pictures of your daughters? It's like, that's my life. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm just documenting my life, right? Like, I'm not changing who I am in front of social media and trying to portray something that I'm not. It's like, social media is just documenting what's going on in my life. So, like, it's ridiculous to just, like, hide my children from that and pretend like that they don't exist. That's just a part of me, right? I don't really believe in, like, wearing all these different masks and being like, oh, I'm in the office now, so therefore, like, I need to wear a suit, or I need to present myself in a certain way. Like, the person that I am with my team is the same person that I am with my family, with my best friends. Right? So realistically, like, the lines of those kind of divides have been blurred and really erased, is the way that I look in the whole storytelling angle. And there is a story behind every business, right? And a lot of people get caught up with, like, not telling people that story because they think it's going to make them perceive as not being as professional. Like, if I was just to come on and have a chat with you and not say that I've run businesses that have been failures before, or I've run businesses into the ground, that is a part of my background. That is a part of the person that's built me, right? So it's like, where most people might think that's like a damaging omission. It's the reality, right? This is the world that we live in. This is, like, the person that I am. This is, like, what I do. This is, like, what my routine's like. And I film all of that stuff because ultimately, like, people buy off people. And the more honest and real that you can be with people, they see that, right? And that's the big feedback that I get, is, like, whether you, like, you don't agree with some ways that I say things or whatnot, they know that they're going to get the real deal when they watch some of my content. There isn't going to be, like, a two-faced person.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's a good, unique selling point in itself across relationships. Like, if you don't get to know someone's personality and story, you don't really know them at all and trust them. So brands are about trust, building that trust. And when you've got a cafe and a cafe and a cafe in the same proximity of each other, selling coffees, the same products, how do you stand up against such a saturated market? stories. That's one of the angles I think.
Yeah, 100%. Like I'm definitely big on those things. And it's like, you just have a look at any brands that you really like or that you really follow. Like, what is the reason? It's because you understand the story behind it to some degree. And it's those people that can tell stories, and they can make the ordinary extraordinary by just telling a story about like what's involved with that whole process. So yeah, like I couldn't agree with you more. I think that it's a huge opportunity that people, you know, they don't want to get involved in, or they don't want to take part in it. One, because they haven't stopped to really think about how they could use it to their benefit, or they just don't want to. They think that they can transact in a place where you don't need to do that. But what I'm seeing across all businesses, right, is that skepticism has never, ever been so rampant. Like, it is so rampant, it is ridiculous. So I believe that it's never, ever been a harder time to get a customer than it is right now. But I've also believed that it's never been a better time to to reach those customers and to turn that customer into an advocate for your brand. But to get that first sale, skepticism is so high. And the way that you can combat that is by telling stories and delivering value, right? The only way to lower those things is to kind of unpack them and have a look, peek behind the curtain, and just be real and deliver value and solve problems for people. That's how you lower that skepticism. And when you do that, you increase that trust with your marketplace. It radically increases your sales.
I think a lot of people would appreciate you giving a 101 on how you can help people, how King Kong helps people get a return on investment with marketing online. Because I personally have had a lot of friends who are business owners who have been disappointed by agency. And, you know, I run an agency too, a production agency. So agency sometimes has a bad rap, doesn't it? Because
definitely.
Let's talk about that a bit.
Yeah, and I think that, like, for one, there's like 1,800 digital marketing agencies in Australia, right? And let's just shoot the shit and basically get straight to the heart of the matter. Like 80% of those people are people that are working in their pajamas and have probably watched a few YouTube videos or have bought a course of how to start a digital marketing agency, right? And the barriers to entry are so low that all you need is a laptop and access to the internet, and you have an agency, right? So there's a lot of people that are out there going, this looks like a good opportunity for me to make some money. Let me start this side hustle, then it becomes a business. They've got a couple of clients, and then a lot of these people are going out and they're hiring these people, okay? And so that's the first mistake, because these digital marketing agencies aren't even using digital marketing to grow their own business. So they have absolutely no business in helping other people grow their business using digital marketing. So there's one side of it where the fault has to be on the tactician that's actually delivering the work. But then more often than not, what I see is that people think that digital marketing agencies are going to solve all of their business problems, right? They're looking for the spot on the genie's belly to rub that makes money magically fall from the sky. And they're thinking that you just sign up to this digital marketing agency and that you don't need to do any work and the money will just come flowing in, right? So we have a saying in our business that we will make the marketing work, you need to make the leads work, right? You need to make the product, the business actually work on your end. It's not going to be, I sign up to King Kong and money flows from the sky. It's going to be, I partner with King Kong. We're both partners. We will pivot, adapt, modify everything that we need to do to ensure that we will be successful. So all the ownership is not placed onto the agency, it's shared with that business owner. And you must look at us as an internal team member to deliver you the results, okay? So the way that we work is that, like, we are a unit economics driven business. That means that we don't look at any of the vanity metrics. We're not looking at likes, engagement, impressions on your ads, views to the landing page. We're looking at the cold, hard facts and the building blocks for building a business through sound mathematical equations. So we want to know what the cost per lead is, how many leads we need to get in order to convert a lead into a paying customer. What's the payback period going to be from when we put a dollar into ads? When is that pendulum going to swing back and return that ad spend, right? What is the lifetime value of a client? And these are like, we use these as a mathematical equation to grow businesses. So when somebody comes on board, we're setting up roughly what those KPIs look like, and then we're running them through that business model, and we're really giving that business owner a level of education that they've never had before, i.e. how do you grow a business based off mathematics, not just by hopes and prayers. So we want to look at the real numbers that it's going to take, and we will hold ourselves accountable to those KPIs, where if we don't deliver on our end of the bargain, then we simply do not get paid. But at the same time, if we deliver on what we're saying and people aren't able to close leads, or they're never following them up, or the receptionist is answering the phone instead of a salesperson, like there has to be that kind of responsibility that is shared, I guess, across both parties. And I think that that's one part of a two-piece equation of why agencies have a bad rap, is that most of these people that are in their pajamas will say anything to a prospect to get them as a paying client because they're desperate for it, and they don't manage their expectations. And then on the other end of that, you've got the business owner who has completely unrealistic expectations.
I totally agree with that. And I see with COVID at the moment, there's people are, pipelines are being affected, and revenue streams are being affected by a lot of places. What do you think, in your opinion, businesses should be pulling back on, maintaining, or spending money on right now?
That's a great question. I think that the biggest thing, the way that I look at it, is like a business is an organism, and that organism requires oxygen to survive. And oxygen is sales and revenue. Anything that brings money into the business is oxygen. So you want to scrutinize all the costs that are associated with your business that are not oxygen. And you want to ruthlessly cut those things down. You want to squeeze every little inch of juice from that orange that you can and eat the orange rind itself, right? When it comes to costs. And when it comes to oxygen, what most people do is they look to do the most stupid thing, which is to cut off the oxygen. Oh, this is an uncertain time. Let me pull back on my advertising cost. There is nothing that you could do that would be more stupid than that. And the reason that I say that is, if you're a business and you've got customers, the chances are you've got a whole bunch of customers right now that are either pausing or canceling or not repeat purchasing. Okay, so if you turn off your advertising, you're going to have no oxygen coming into the organization and into the organism, and you will die, right? So the other end of that is like, okay, how do I be really smart and really cut down my costs for anything that's not oxygen and pump more oxygen into the lungs of this organization and this organism to get through this period, right? It's a scary thing to do in uncertain times, but it's the most logical. If you take emotions out of it and you just look at a P&L of a business and you look at where the money is coming in, it really makes no sense to go, okay, let me stop on content creation. Why would you do that, right? Everyone's at home, they've got more time than ever to watch your content. Why would you pull back on ads? People have got more time than ever. They're all on the internet looking at ads and researching things, okay? So the last thing that you want to do is retreat and run into retreat mode and pull away from all of those things and cut off any chance that you have of bringing money into the business. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I think that the things that make you money right now are the things that you need to double down on, right? If you're making content, you need to make the same, if not more content that you're putting out there. If you're sending emails to your database once a week, you need to increase that to twice or 3 times a week. You need to look at any avenue that you can to bring in as much oxygen into that organism as you possibly can. And they're the things that you really want to be focusing on.
It's really good. It's really good. I think people really need to hear that, because when fear creeps in, it does a lot of silly things to your mind. Anxiety is, I have a background in mental health, so anxiety tends to be futuristic, more about like I fear losing something and having less of something, so therefore we just lock ourselves in a room and hope things work out, and it's not the right way. But I want to know, from you, Sabri, is one of the things that I've heard a lot about actually is the word money. And I think you and I both have a pretty healthy, when you're a business owner, money, you just talk about money. I think it's important to talk about money. But it's funny how some people I talk to, they get uncomfortable with a topic called money, about money. I don't know why. Do you ever find that's the case? You talk about money
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, like I think that, people can get, they might watch my videos and think like, oh, this dude's all about money, right? And realistically, the world that I operate in is business. And in business, money is the scoreboard. And, I really look at, money as opportunity to make an impact on things that you want to do. I grew up, in a house where I was dirt poor and money was always a problem, right? So it's like, that's been obviously a central point in my business and in my life, is focusing on that, because you can't help people, like a large scale of people, if you don't have some kind of resources, right? You can either and I'm not saying that you need money to help people. That's bullshit, right? If you don't have any money, you can go work in a soup kitchen. You can give back to people that are less fortunate, right? You can make impact in other ways, right? But if you want to have real impact and do a lot, you're going to need some vehicle that's going to give you money in order to make that change, right? Most of the people that we know and we think about, so people like Mother Teresa and Gandhi and all these people that made such big, profound impacts, they had some backer. They had some financial money coming in for them to allow them to get that message out. Whether it's partners or however you want to look at it, there's some kind of resource around that. And money is just a way to help people give back. And especially if I look at, the way that I look at business is that you've got a market, right? On one axis is the value, and there's a straight line going out. And as a business owner, you basically get to take a percentage of the value that you create in a marketplace. Okay, so you don't make money unless you provide value to some degree. And when you're out there in a free market capitalistic economy like we operate in, it's you're really compensated by the amount of value that you provide to that marketplace. And in turn, when you provide that value and you collect money as a result of providing that value, then you can give back, right? It's like a ripple effect. If you take one business owner and you double their business, and you have double the amount of money coming in, that affects their employees. It affects their health and their well-being, right? It affects their children. It affects their social circles, the charities and churches and philanthropy that they can do. And then it also affects all the people in society that look to that individual to what is possible in life, right? So there's a profound effect that happens off that. And yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the money and just think oh, this dude's all about the money. But at a certain stage, that money doesn't have a big materialistic impact on your life. And it's really just the impact that you make with that, and what is the challenge and what is the climb that you're looking to go through. And I do see it what you're saying, people feel uncomfortable talking about money, right? And that's because they don't have a healthy relationship with money.
I agree. Totally, I agree. And I always say this to people is that if I give a generous guy $1 million, I've given him, he's got $1 million to be generous with. And if I give $1 million to a selfish bastard, he's got more to be selfish with. It's not money that's the problem, but people have, like you said, a really negative view of money because maybe they see examples of people in power or abusing power. You got to find examples of whatever. You can Google, you can find examples of everything. But I think we're kidding ourselves if we're robbing ourselves in society if we don't have a healthy chat about it. And I see your stuff, Sabri, and I think that's exactly what I thought, because I think it's easy to maybe perceive something, because everyone perceives something about me, people perceive things about you, but what you're really, the heart of what you guys are doing is actually getting the best out of a business product, getting their message out there the most, and to get that amplification that they require and they maybe deserve, they need to be able to look at the fundamentals, oxygen. We need to look at what you've got. Let's multiply that. And that's really important that people hear that with you, Sabri. I think with all digital marketers.
And I think that the whole money thing, right? People think that just because I guess today's day and age with the media and everything being so accessible and everything is much more documented than it was 100 years ago, right? So everyone looks at it now and they believe that corruption is at an all-time high, that money is polluting the world and it's creating this 1% that's more toxic than ever. Yet they refuse to look back in history and look at when Alexander was 16 years old, traveling country to country, raping and pillaging for gold and spices, right? So it's like this whole thing, there's always going to be people that have that hunger for, where it's like greed, and they're going to use these things to do certain things, right? Whether you're trading spices and you're a merchant, or it's gold, or there's always going to be that innate thing that's going to be in people. And you can choose to focus on like the pitfalls and the negative things. But if you remove money from the equation, right? Like, and you just remove that, there's going to be something else that comes about.
Yeah.
And if you just look at history to date, people complain about capitalism and they talk about socialism and all these things. It's like, in my opinion, capitalistic as a function of society is the most successful one, right? You look at the other ones and you look at those countries and the socialist countries, it's like, well, that's not like abundance. You know what I mean? Abundance, like there's on one end, you look at abundance and you look at the greed and stuff that spills off the back of that. But on the other end, it's like you look at the opposite to that in other kind of societies, whether it's communism or socialism or whatever it might be. And, you look at those people, is that an abundance? Or is it an oppression? So like, I don't think that money is the issue. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
It's more so like what you said. It's like if you give $1 million to a greedy bastard, he's still going to be a greedy bastard. Or if you give it to like somebody generous, they're still going to be generous, right? So it's really humans and human psychology. It's not the money component. And if you take that away, it's going to go back to people going and conquering land instead of money.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point what you said there, Sabri, about how what if I know you guys have so many great cases of how you've taken one business and grown their business doubled, tripled, and all that. We'll talk about that soon. But if someone was to say, what's your number? And they got that number, the question then is, what are you going to do with it? What's the purpose of it? And purpose is really important, right? Because like people sometimes, I think in our pop culture, when I've grown, we're similar ages, early 30s, and there has been examples of, rich and the famous. This is the aim for life. It's a success. People stand in front of like whatever you want to do, it's fine. But that is an image that has been ingrained in me as a child. Or this is what it looks like. But what's the purpose? As I get older, and as I'm sure you're a very deep thinker. I've been looking up your stuff and philosophical, and it really comes down to, well, in business, what are you doing it about? What are you doing it for? Because if you have all the money in the world, like what's it for? Is it for to be selfish to yourself? Whatever. What is it? Is it for a greater cause to make an impact? How important is purpose?
Oh, it's everything. And like the exercise that I do, like with a lot of students of mine, is this thing called like looking at what your dream day looks like. Because the thing is, like, from when you're very young and like, say for instance, you're graduating from high school and you get these like career counselors that come in and they're like, oh, what is it that you want to do for the rest of your life? Right. And it's like this big, impactful, profound moment where you take like a 17-year-old and you're asking them to make the decision of like, what is it that they want to be doing for the eternity of their life? And it's so ridiculous that no one tells you that, like, well, hey, what you choose to do.
That, yeah. And then that 17-year-old at the same time has to put his hand up in class to go get permission to go to the toilet.
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. And so you have that, right? And it's like, okay, first of all, no one really tells you that the decision that you make at that time is only going to be like one act of your life. And just because you choose to go down this road now doesn't mean it's going to turn into something completely different. But even if you just look at that and you look at how we're conditioned as society, it's like, okay, you go to school, you get good grades, you go to university, you get good grades to get a high paying job. For what? Like, for what? What is the reason? If you keep on asking why enough times, you're going to get down to the real answer to the question. But the thing that I like to look at is like, forget about everything, all of that. Forget about, say that like, you had all the money that you wanted and you hit your business goals, everything, you were living that life. Like if you ask somebody, what is the dream life for you? It's very, very difficult to get an answer to that question. It's because it's so large. Like, who can really unpack that, right? What do you want your entire life to look like? So the place that I like to start is, taking a bite of the elephant one bite at a time and having a look, well, what does the dream day look like for you? What time would you go to bed? When would you wake up? What would you be eating? Who would you be eating with? What would you choose to focus your energy on? All of those things, right? And then really figuring out, okay, well, what is it that I would love? If I had a choice to do anything that I wanted every day, what would that be? And then once you've got that, then you need to have a look at how much money do you need to make in order to support that dream day?
Designing a life.
Yeah. And most people don't design the life, right? They just go through the motions as a dairy cow and just get milked by society and get pigeonholed into these things that they have no passion of doing. But the pressure of society is built so much that it's like built this groove where they have to go down that path, right? So there's a difference between like designing a life and also having the art of living a rich life, and looking at what are those things that you need to do to make sure that you are being fulfilled. And let's not fool anybody. Money is a part of that, right? You need to have a certain level of money to be able to support that, but it's not the end thing, right? Otherwise you get caught on this like hedonist treadmill where you're constantly looking for that like endorphin rush and that hit to make you feel like you're living like a fulfilled life, but you're just trying to keep up with the Joneses. You're just chasing that next like sugar rush, so to speak. So you really need to think of like, what are the things that actually fulfill you and keep you engaged? And then you need to be real with yourself and understand that money and finances is going to play a part of that. Depending on what you want, it's going to depend how big of a part it is going to play, but it is definitely a part of it. And then optimizing for what gives you true like fulfillment.
That's so true, because in business, we all know that a good technique is to look at where you want to land and work backwards from there, like deductive reasoning. And we often don't apply. It's funny. I see better business plans from some business owners than I see a life plan. So they've they sat down and looked at their business and like, this is where I want to be in 5 years. And this is why I'm doing it. And here's where I want to evolve. And here's a system to get there. But then we forget ourselves. And I know there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about how, what does a man gain if he sells his soul for the world? And I often think about that, because your soul is more than just one aim. Like we're so multifaceted as human beings, and we crave love, we crave attention, and we crave to create and to connect. And these all web in together as human elements in marketing and in business, because business is people. Business involves people. So as soon as we forget ourselves and we disconnect from ourselves, I think a lot of issues arise.
100%. I couldn't agree anymore. And it's like, you touched on that topic of creating a plan for your life, right? And it's something that's never spoken about. It's something that's never really talked about. The thing that is talked about is like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do with the rest of your life, right? Well, that's like, it's a very superficial question. Right? You should really be looking at, well, what kind of life do you want to live? Right? What is it that's really important for you? And then coming up with a plan of what that looks like. And that's the first step in business. Like, forget the business plan, man. Like, forget about like how much traffic you're going to need to get. First, figure out where the destination is that you're trying to get to, and then build a business that helps you get to that destination. Don't go the other way around, because then otherwise you build this business. And I see this so often where people build this business that is this time-hungry vampire of a beast. And it really has that business owner, and it's like they are the slave to that business. And it is just sucking all of the life and resources and energy out of that person. And that's because they've built that thing, right? They've built that beast. And they haven't gotten clear on where it is that they're trying to go and what is it that they're trying to do. And then going, awesome, what is it that I would need to do in order to get there? What kind of business would I need to build?
Yeah, exactly. And let's share a little bit about that, Sabri, with your life. So would you say that your life is like, that's how you're living your life right now, that your day to day is like, you're chipping away at, you're living your design life?
Yeah, I definitely am. I think that it's a continual path. You never quite get there. For me, the thing that kind of keeps me motivated, and it's not like a monetary figure or anything like that. It's more so the question that I ask myself every day in all other areas of my life is like, what is it that I am capable of achieving and doing with that time? And then where am I at right now? And how do I realize my potential? Like, they're the things that really motivate me, is constantly chasing my potential. Because, you know, it's not about reaching a destination, but more so, you know, I've got that life to live where, you know, I think it's a Confucius quote where it's like, every man lives two lives. It's like the first life they live, and then the second life is when they realize that they've only got one life to live, right? And it's like, as you approach, you know, your 30s, or this can be younger in life, you know, I keep the forefront of really the importance of time. And especially, like, I know you've got two young girls, I've got two young girls. They really become like, you know, a barometer and like a measurement tool of time, and seeing like that time is not this endless thing, right? It's something that is finite and you need to maximize. And I think for me, I sit down and I fast forward to the end of my life, right? And I was to be looking backwards. The number one thing that I think that I would regret is having the feeling that I could have done more with the time that I had, right? So therefore, trying to chase my potential is the thing that keeps me the most motivated. Because even if you achieved great, quote unquote, success, if you knew deep down inside that you could have given more, you could have done more, you could have given back more, you could have given more love, you could have achieved more, then I think that's the thing that I would regret the most, right? Like, getting to the stage where I'm so old that I know that I only have a few years left in my life, and would have been thinking like, imagine that I just gave it my all at everything that I did. What would this life, what would it have looked like?
Yeah, that's brilliant, man. For me, I'd look back on my life and ask, did I have my order of love intact? Like, St. Augustine said something pretty profound. He said, sin is an archery term, by the way. Sin is about hitting the target or missing the mark. Sorry, sin is like missing the mark. And St. Augustine had this quote about how sin is like having your love out of order. So there's nothing wrong with money. There's nothing wrong with work. There's nothing wrong with fashion or loving things. But because of time and it's finite, like this, it's only finite. There's only a certain amount of priorities you can do at once. And for me, I cried. No, I don't cry often actually, because I don't know, just not super emotional guy in a lot of ways. But my daughter made me cry probably about 3 weeks ago now. And I said I had to go to work. I was going in the office. And she's like, what do you have to go to work for? And I'm like, I get to help people today. And we just moved a location just before Armageddon happened with COVID. So it's quite expensive where we're living here in Sydney. And I said, I've got to also pay the bills, you know, this is what helps to stay here. She's like, reached into a little purse and poured out all the coins on the table and said, there you go, you don't need to go anymore. I just burst, man. Kill me.
Yeah, and it's so funny because even when I was coming to the office to record this, even my daughter said like something along the lines like, hey, I don't want you to go, like why are you going, like, you know. And even having like that education piece with your children of like why that even exists, of like why do you have to go and do something to make money, right? And like it's a great opportunity, I think, that you don't want to waste that opportunity to also let them know the way that things do work, right? Because on one end, it's like you've got this thing where it's like your priorities and it's the people that you love, and like you have created this person, right? And they've come into your world and into your life and they enrich it. And then also letting them know that like, you know, there's this whole love piece, right? And there's this whole family unit piece. And then off the back of that, there's things that need to happen in order for that relationship to take place, right? And for that whole ecosystem to work. And it's not like one of those things where it would be easy to discount the importance of going and working and making money in a time like that, where you've got like a 3-year-old girl and you're trying to, you know, talk to them in this place that their little baby mind can understand, right? But it's still also, I think, like it's really important just to let them know, like, this is kind of, you know, how the world works, and you go out there and you help people solve certain problems that they've got, and then like they give you money, and then money is the thing that we live off that allows us to live a certain life, and all of those things that come with it. And people can be like, oh, that's just too much for a 3-year-old. Like my 3-year-old, she understands all of that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like my wife says, like, you know, what's Papa doing at work today? It's like, oh, he's going to make some money. And he's like, why does he go and make money? He's like, so he can buy me raspberries. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you have to talk in a way that they understand, but like pretending like that money isn't a piece in that it's gonna basically lead to them having that miseducation and that bad relationship, which was what we just talked about before, is people having a bad relationship. It's because there's all these negative stigmas around money, right? And like, even look at the words like filthy rich, right? It's like a negative connotation to it, right? And like in you look in like children's cartoons and all this, it's like the evil person is always the rich person. And so it's just like, just looking at those kind of cues and those heuristics throughout society that have built up and kind of shaped people's identity towards that they have towards money.
Yeah, like there's that consequence of, if you don't talk about it, then someone's going to educate, you're going to educate yourself somewhere about it. Yeah, and then there's a disrespect toward money if you don't bring it up. And
yep.
I think we've got kids similar ages that I'm really appreciating the time that I'm in with my kids, and you are probably too, with being that teacher and being that father is being a lot like a teacher, and you're showing things through what you do, and then you're speaking what you want to say, like you're giving the education through words, but they're watching you. And they're watching where you go, and they're watching how much time you spend here and there. And my 3-year-old definitely understands why dad goes to work. And I intend for my kids when they grow up to understand what things cost in the household. Like I intend for a family discussion around money, because I would have found that a very helpful thing as a teenager growing up, when especially when I didn't understand, when you're not explained why, you're disempowered. Why can't I buy this shirt, Mum? Why can't you buy this for me? Oh, we can't right now. It's like, but I just saw you buy that. Why can't you buy that? Why? If she sat down and said, well, things are a bit tight right now with the blah, blah, blah. And that's totally unorthodox at the moment in a lot of places in Australia, like talking about money.
Yeah.
But I tend to subscribe to the idea that, well, let's be transparent a little bit. Like be selective with stuff, but don't hold back the whole topic, because then they appreciate they have an appreciation of what goes in, goes out, and it's not just magical, and not going to grow up spoiled.
Yeah, and you have to think about, like, typically the relationship between people and money is not a good one, and that's usually because it's taught by people that don't have money, right? And therefore they have a negative relationship with the money, and they're basically passing it on to their children, where it's like, oh, money doesn't grow on trees and all this stuff, right? And it's like, yeah, I think I couldn't agree with you more about getting on the same page. You know, me and my wife already get on the same page with everything, what we're doing, you know, looking at our household as, you know, our life as a business, the ins and the outflows of it. And the same thing for my children. Like, you know, as soon as my girls like can get on the telephone, they'll be in the business working, right? There's like, they're like, the thing is, like, you know, if you grew up in a certain situation where you weren't fortunate to have, you know, a surplus of money, and then you get into a position where you have children and you are in that fortunate position, the default position that I want to be is I want to give my girls everything that I could ever give them, right? But it's a disservice moving forward, right? So I'm definitely going to have them understand the whole trading of value and time and resources for things that they want. And when they want things, they're going to have to do something as a result of wanting to get those things. Do you know what I mean? There has to be that relationship where they understand. It's like, okay, I put some effort into this, and then this thing is delivered, right? So if I put a lot of effort and energy into this thing, then I can have a lot of this thing that I want that is delivered. And yeah, getting them transparent on all those things, and not even being like, you know, I think that I'm in a fortunate position where I own a business where it's like, if my daughter in the future is going to be like, look, I want this thing, I'll be like, awesome, you come into the business and you do this, and then when you get that result, you can go and get that thing that you want.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about being business owners and having kids. You can bring them in and teach them great lessons. And this you know what? From this chat, I really love this chat, Savi, because one, it's really, I think the theme of it just naturally, organically arose of you're a really transparent guy, you're a really honest guy, and you're willing to get to the heart of the matter and talk about things like, return and all that, because that's really, if you cut through all the other barriers and the things around it, you get to the core of the matter. And that's really, really, I think that's a big attribute to your success and your future success, because honesty is hard to find. And there's sleazy people out there, there's marketing campaigns that are out to trick us. And here you are, and you are who you say you are. Your marketing is cutthroat. I really like it in a good way, like honest to the point. And it's refreshing. But well, I could talk to you for hours, Savi, but I might end it here. So I just love just with what people could do with supporting you or finding more info about you. Could you just give them a little info about that? Do they go to your website at King Kong?
Yeah, look, if you own a business and you need help growing that, you can go to kingkong.com.au and check out our agency and get in contact with us. And if we're a fit, we'll let you know. If you're not, we'll shoot you straight and let you know also. But I think probably the best place to start for anybody that wants to hear more with the least amount of kind of commitment on their end, and they're just like during this whole lockdown period, is probably just to go to selllikeCrazybook.com. And you can just pick up my book there, and basically you can get it you can pay the shipping and we'll send it out to you. And basically that will give you, really like a framework to go out there and grow your business. It's a lot of stuff that's not just about marketing in there as well, but looking inward as well and just looking at the person that you are, and that's the person that's going to be driving the vehicle that is your business. So you can go there, grab my book. Thanks for your kind words.
Nah, thanks for your time, Sabri. I know we're all busy. So, guys, go support Sabri and hopefully get him on the show again in the future. That'd be great. Thanks, Sabri.
Awesome. No problems. Thanks for having me on. Hey, guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you click the like button and subscribe. We're dropping a video on YouTube every other day. And if you've got any questions about any of the content that I covered in this video, just basically leave a comment with hashtag HeySabri in the comment section. And every week, we're also trying to go through all those questions and get them answered. So go ahead, click subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.